let's look at how to create a Python CGI web program. So CGI is the Common Gateway Interface. It's a way to allow a program to generate the HTML code that the browser then sees when the server sends it out. So the server sends out or runs this program, sends it out, the browser is then able to look at it, and so you're using a server that's running a program to generate your page. All right, so first of all, in order to do this, you need to install your Apache web server. So I'm going to do an apt install Apache 2. So that's my Apache 2 web server. All right, once you have your server installed, you want to go ahead and make sure it's enabled. So systemctl enable Apache 2. All right, now the configuration files for Apache are in the etc Apache 2 directory. You can see there's the apache2.conf. If we take a look at that one briefly, apache2.conf, you can see it has, well, other files that are being loaded in. And that kind of gets down to the very bottom. You'll see it. You can see a bunch of these enabled things and site enabled. And so these things get in there. You also see the permissions for the www directory. So in order to be able to run CGI, you kind of want to have either this directory or a different directory have the exec CGI. So let's go ahead and actually modify that. So we'll do nano on apache2.conf, and we'll scroll down until we get to that directory directives. So we can see for this var www directory, one of the options we want to add in is exec CGI. This means that the var www directory is allowed to execute CGI programs. Now, they're not all translated and interpreted as that, but you can get them that way through a little work. All right, so then if you want to, you just need to find the MIME type. So if I look at my mods available, you can see, well, there is this MIME mime.conf file. All right. Now I want to go find the CGI, and each of these things, they tell it how to interpret data. So the data needs to be sent across, and right here we have this add handler that says CGI script. So if it has the .cgi extension, then it will be interpreted as a CGI script, which means that you need to then have the exec CGI that will then run it. All right, so you can go ahead and exit there. All right, and if we look here, we can see other things we might want to do later. But you also see there is this CGI, CGID. If you wanted to, you can test to see if you need those. But you can do an A2 and mod, and you can do CGI. All right. So at this point, we should go ahead and restart our server and see if that will do it. So do systemctl restart Apache 2. I always like to enable just to make sure, even though it's probably already there. All right. Now, if I bring up my browser, I can connect to my local web server by just typing in, let's see, right here, just having localhost. All right, so you can see the page is there, and so that's kind of nice, but it doesn't really have what we want on it. All right, so let's go back to our text, and let's go to our page. So it's in var www HTML. And you can see there's an index.html file So we can leave that there if we want, or we can delete it. We're going to replace it. But we're going to go ahead and make a test CGI. So CGI script, in order to run, you need to have a basic thing, and that's just you have to have a header and then a body of an HTML page. So we're going to go ahead and create the HTML or CGI page. So I'll do a test.cgi. And in this, I need to tell it where my Python interpreter is. So user bin Python 3. And then all I need to do is just print out the header. So content type, and it's going to be text/HTML. Now at this point, you can add extra lines of the header, or you can just have a blank line, and then you are done with the header. You can also just do a /n up here to finish it. This is also where you put cookies if you're sending cookies over to the client machine, but we're not doing that right now. And then I just print my page. So you could do your doc type and just do a more formal HTML thing, or you could just jump directly into it and just print your basic HTML tags and maybe throw in something in here. So my page. There you go. Then exit that. And we need to change the permissions to make it executable. So you can see right now it's just a read, write, and just read. So do chmod 755 test, and you can see that now it is executable. Read, write, execute, and I can run it just to make sure it runs from the command line. And you can see it runs, and this is what it puts out. If I jump back to my web page right here, let's see, shrink that one a little bit. And I do a /localhost/ test.cgi. Then I can see if it runs, and it says my page, which is good. That means that I have CGI working correctly. Okay, now back to my terminal here. I have a piece of code that talks to a database, and it has a library. So if I look at back in my root directory, there is a contact list directory, and in it there is this contact API. So if I copy over that root contact list contact API into this directory, and this is a really bad idea, by the way, because if someone wants to look at your code, they could just pull it up. So ideally, you would put it in a different directory, and then you would use your path to include it. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do it in secure right now. So I'm going to now create, well, actually, let's copy over this test.cgi to contact list.cgi. And now I'm going to load this contact API. Let's take a look at the contact API first. Contact API. And you can see it is an API that loads up some stuff. It has add contact, list contacts, delete contacts, and update contacts. So let's go ahead and list contacts first, just to see what happens. So list contacts. If I go into this contact list CGI, I have the start of a program, and I can go ahead and add a header in here. Print my head, and inside of the head sections, you can create load any JavaScript or CSS you want. I'm going to go ahead and put a title in here. and this will be my contact list program. And then the body of this message or this program, I can have all of the rest of the stuff in here. Okay. All right. Now, in order to be able to run this and do everything I want to do, I need to load my contact API. So I'll do an import, and I want to get my contact API. In addition to the contact API, I'm going to also import my OS. OS gives me information about my environment, which can give me my query string. And then I also want to be able to parse the query string. So I'll do from URL lib.parse import parse QSL. All right, so that'll give me all the libraries I need. Once I have that up and going, I can go ahead and connect to my API and start testing it. So my API will do C equals contact list or contact API dot contact API. Now, you can have any other program that you want to interact with, but the idea is I want to look at the web portion of this. All right, so inside of my body, so I've got my body right here, and maybe I'll have just a title page right here. So I'll do contact list, and then what I want in the contact list section. Well, I want to be able to get everything that I have, display it, and then once it's displayed, I want to be able to add, delete, and update different pieces of my program, right? Or they make entry changes to the contact list. So first I want to get the list. And in order to get the list, I'm going to grab the data. So my data equals, and my program, the contact list API, allows me to do a list contacts method. And that'll give me all my data. And then I can go and iterate through that. So for contact in data, there are 4 pieces of information for each contact. There's an ID, and so that'll be my contact 0. I've got my last name, that's my contact 1. My first name, contact 2. And then my phone number equals contact 3. Now, if you want to see how I actually generate this, you can look at the link to the video in the comments or in the description below, and that will show you how to actually generate this portion where I talk to the database. But for now, I'm just going to display the contact information, and then we will go ahead and modify it all. So I'm going to then print out, for each of these contacts, I'm going to print out a list. So I need a table right here. So I'll do print. I'm going to print out in this table all of my contacts. Let's close the table. All right. And for each contact, I need to have a table row. Print table row. And I then need to close that table row at some point. And I can just print out all 4 pieces of information. So I can do print table data, %s, and let's just take this line right here, cut it and paste it 4 times, and then I can just print ID, last name, first name, and phone number. So there should be, I think there is at least one in there right now. So I save this, I jump back to the page, and I will change this to contact list. And it says, okay, we've got contact ID is 3, Smith, Jane, 567 is her phone number. All right, so that's good. It's good to have a header before that as well. So I can do a print, and I'll do a table row right here, and there, close that. And then the header lines, print, th, close the th, and let's take that, cut that, and then paste it 4 times. And we'll say this is the ID, this is the last name, the first name, and we have the phone number. Save that. I go over here and I run it again, and I can see, okay, I got a last name, first name, and a phone number all being displayed. All right, now if I wanted to add something to the list, I need to have adds and deletes and things like that. So let's start with an add line. How do we add? Well, let's add another line right here at the very top where we want to add somebody. So if I do a print, another table row, print, table row, and then inside this one, I'm going to display the ID number, and I'm going to display all the other information or allow them to have it. But there is no ID number for this first one. So print. This is where we get to this point where the question is, do you actually need to see the ID number? So let's say, no, we don't need to see it. So let's go ahead and take that one out. Let's take out the ID right there, and we'll take out the ID right here. So it's not being displayed in any of them. So you just have these 3 columns. All right. So what do? We want an input type equals text, and the name is going to be equal to last name, and there's no value, but it will do a placeholder. And a placeholder is just some text that displays this is last name, so they know to type in their last name right there. And then we close this table data. All right, take that one, copy that, or cut it, and then paste it 3 times. And so then I can change this to first name. Change this to first right here. And this will be phone number. All right. So now you'll have these 3 different fields you can type things in. So if I save this right now, and I jump over here, and then I run this again, you can see, okay, you got the last name, first name, and phone number. They can then type them in. Now we need to have a little button to add. So let's go ahead and do that. In order to be able to add something, you need to have it inside of a form. So I'm going to create a form. Print form action equals what is the name of the script that runs when you press the button. And so for this one, it's going to be the contact list.cgi. So I'm going to pass it back to this same program. And my method is going to be a get. So I can put that in small quotes if I want. That's a little better. And then I need to close the form down here. Print form right there. So then this entire form from here, where it opens until it closes down here, everything in here is data that gets sent in when the form's submit button gets pressed. So what's the submit button? Well, in this case, the submit button is going to be the add button. So to print, and then the input type equals submit. The value is what is displayed on the button. So I'll be add. I don't need a name because if it has a name, it'll get passed over in the value. I don't really need to know that. So I'll just close that. And so then as soon as this button is pressed, you'll get to see what happens. So I will go ahead and refresh this. And there's an add button. So if I do John, and his phone number is 123, I click add, you can see that it shows up in this query string up here. So that information is passed across. Now you could do post instead of get, and it hides it better, but this one's much easier to learn with, and you can change it later when you're ready. All right, because we have this new column on the end, maybe we'll call this one the action. So that's the add action that shows up right here. And down here, we're going to need actions as well, but we don't have them yet. Okay, now what do? Well, before we actually display the table, we want to know, did we make any changes? Because it's going to go back and loop back through and run the same exact program again. So we're going to add some code right here that processes the updates we're making. Okay, so let's go ahead and parse the query string. Parse. It's all right. Query string. Well, where do we get the query string from? We get it from the environment. And let me just show you what the environment looks like so you can see it. So if I do a print os.envi environment right there, just print that. Let's go ahead and run this code so you can see what happens. If I run this, it prints out the environment. You see all these different variables here. It's actually a bunch of them. You can just loop through the list, but one of them is query string. And you can see the query string has this value right here. It has a last name, first name, phone, all this right here. And you can see that matches exactly what you have right here. This is the query string. So it's in our environment. So if we get the query underscore string from this hash table, we can use that. And that's in the environment. All right, so let's go ahead and grab that. So I'll start with query string equal to nothing in case there isn't one in the environment. And then if it's there, we're going to go ahead and grab it. So if query string in os.environ, if it's there, then our query string is going to be equal to os.environ query string. All right, that way we have a string. It might be an empty string, or it could be the actual query string. And then let's have some query data. Query data, and this is just going to be a dictionary that we can store information into. All right. Now we want to go ahead and get the list of data. So we get a query list, and that's going to be equal to whatever we get from the query string. And we parse that using the parse thing we loaded earlier, parse query string L QSL. You can see we loaded up here, right here. All right, so now we're going to parse and get that from our query string. Now this will give us a list of pairs, and we want to take these pairs and put them into our dictionary so we can handle it later. And so I'll just loop through it. So for maybe name value inquiry list. So for each name value pair, we just want to say our query data name equals value, so I can look it up later. So that gets me it all parsed out and ready to go, and I'm ready to now do some stuff. Now we still have to figure out what to do about that add command we have down here, right? So I'm going to figure out, did we actually get something? So I'm going to process it. So process commands. Now we know that there is a add value here. If I put a name in here, then I'll know that it actually came in as an add. If it always matches, or I can do a hidden value. Let's go ahead and do a hidden value because those are always fun. So print input type equals hidden, name equals CMD for command, and value equals to add, all lowercase. So now we're going to have this extra CMD thing called add. All right. So if we have a CMD in our query data, that means that we need to add some kind of a command. So our command will be equal to our query data for whatever CMD is. In this case, it will be add. And then I can do if my command equals add, then I'm going to try adding it. So how do we add it? Well, we need to get the data from down below. So we need a last name, a first name, and a phone number. So the last name is going to be equal to my query data from whatever last name is set to. My first name is equal to a query data for my first name. And the phone number is equal to my query data for the phone number. So we got all three values now, and I can go ahead and add them now. But I just wanted to check, because if there's no last name or no first name, it's just blank, I probably don't want to actually add it. So I'll do if last name and first name, that means they have a value that's not blank. Then I'm going to run the add command, C add contact, pass my last name, first name, and my phone number. All right, so that will run it. It'll process, it'll be added to the database, and then later on, when I try listing the contents down below, you'll see all the data right here, and it should be able to work, assuming I didn't make any mistakes. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's do it without this stuff here, so we can start from blank. So I'll do Doe, John, and then 1, 2, 3, and I click add, and now it's added to the list. So we've been able to add an item. Let's go put another one here. So we have Davis, Mark, and 2, 3, 4. So we can add names just fine. There's no delete, there's no updates, but we can go work on that now. So next, we're going to try to, well, delete data. So we have a last name, first name thing right here. So let's go ahead and add another thing right here. We're printing out our list. So we print, and in here we're going to create another one for our. This is going to be for our delete. All right. All right, so we want to have a delete button. So I'll go ahead and start the form before it. So print form action equals the contact list dot CGI. My method is my get. I'm going to end the form over here. Print. Now you can see that up here we're getting the ID number, and all we need to do delete something. My delete had a delete contact, and I just passed in the ID number. So all I need to do is pass in the information about what I'm doing. So print input type equals hidden, name equals CMD, value equals delete. All right, so there's delete in there. And then I want to have the value getting sent across. So input type equals hidden. And this one is ID. And the value equals the ID that is being passed over. So I'll do single quotes, %s. And then I'm going to pass in the ID right here. And then inside of here, I'm going to have just the submit button, which is my delete button. Input type equals submit, value equals delete. All right. So now it doesn't actually delete anything, but it will look like it's going to delete something. So if I save that and run this without anything there at the end. All right, so now they all have a delete button. So if I press delete, it says command delete ID 4, delete ID 5, delete ID 3, so I can choose which one I want to delete, and each one has a different number being sent across. Now in order to delete it, all I need to do now is go back up here where I'm processing stuff beforehand and say, oh, what if I want to delete it? Well, we know the ID is being sent over. So if the command equals delete, then I'm going to give ID. So ID equals query data ID. And I might want to typecast as an int just for fun. And then if my ID is greater than 0, then it's most likely a number and not something weird. And I can go ahead and delete it. So C delete contact and pass the ID, and there we go. So that should work. I could even like compress this a little bit better and more. All right. And let's go ahead and do an update while we're at it. So if CMD equals update. So when you want to update it, you want to probably send over the same things, the first name, last name, and the, so copy these. right here, we're also going to want to have this whole thing about the ID. All right, so all those things are copied over, and then if the ID is greater than 0, then we can do an update. See, update contact, and this ID, last name, first name, and phone number. Of course, we don't have any code that's actually producing this update, but at least it's a little better looking. All right, save that. We'll jump back over to our web page, and let's actually try deleting some now. So I click delete on Mark Davis. Boom, he's gone. Jane Smith, delete, she's gone. John Doe is the one left. All right, so next we want to go ahead and do the update. Now this one's a little bit trickier because what we have is a situation where we have lots of data being sent over and it's just being displayed right now. But we want it to be in a, like this placeholder style, okay? So I'm gonna copy these 3 up here and then paste them back. And then I'm gonna put them down here. Now they're not quite the same as these other ones because these ones actually have values. So do value equals %s, and value equals %s, and value equals %s. So then I need to actually pass in the values. So I'm going to go ahead and take these things off the end and copy from here. And paste that. So that's basically what I want. Well, maybe I should just type them in. First name, first name. And then this one right here, phone. All right, and I can cut out these things right here because I don't need them. So now these things will show up as actual text areas with the values there. It should be a little bit prettier looking, but it still does not have an update button. Let's go ahead and save that and take a look so we can see what it looks like. So if I just run this without a command up there, you can see now we've got this new one right here, and we have a John Doe right here, and then there's no update button. So we'll go ahead and create the update button. Now, these inputs are all part of one action. So I'll copy that and paste it there, and I'll paste this right here. And then I need to close the form right here. All right. So that has the form. I now need to have the input going in here. So the input submit. We probably want to put it inside of a table data. So do input type equals submit, value equals update. All right. And then close my table data. And there we go. So now we have this right here, but we don't have the ID number, so it won't actually work until I get an ID number. So let's go ahead and pass over our hidden ID number. Copy that and paste it right here. We also don't have a command, so let's copy the delete command. And we'll paste that one up here as well. And we'll change it from delete to update. All right, so now we have this action. It's got an update. It passes over the ID number, passes over the last name, first name, phone number, and has an update link right there. So that looks pretty good. I will save that. And I will jump over here and we'll take a look and see what it does. So if I refresh this, we now have an update button. So if I change John Doe's number to 124 and click update, and then I add somebody else, Doe Jane 432. I can add her. I can then decide to change John Doe's number, update that, and so you can see the update and delete are now available. The ads there. And so basically, everything you need is here. So you've got the update, you've got the delete, you have the ad, all working. So this shows you basically how to create an application using CGI that then interacts with the database in the back end. So once again, if you want to see the first part of this where I create the backend database, just look at the link in the description. All right, thank you.